Do you believe citizens should take the laws into their own hands?
No, it is not taking the laws into their own hands.
Your Excellency, but do you agree that there were accusations that you made during the campaign that were not necessarily founded?
Me?
Yes. If the party doesn't have a direct influence over the legislative arm of government, how come the party held a primary election, Senate?
The party provided the platform only.
I actually disagree with you, Senator. I think draconian laws would affect more so the masses, the people who do not even have to begin with. What do they call the incident of October 2006?
No impeachment. That's they call it rascality.
Rascality. Welcome to today's episode of the Osasu Show. Today we will be looking at Myasthenia gravis, a rare chronic autoimmune neuromuscular disease marked by muscular weakness. It occurs when normal communication between the nerve and muscle is interrupted at the neuromuscular junction, the place where nerve cells connect with the muscles they control. The degree of muscle weakness involved in MG varies greatly among individuals, ranging from a localized form limited to eye muscles to a severe generalized form in which many muscles, sometimes including those that control breathing, are affected. MG is neither contagious nor hereditary. On today's episode of the Osasu Show, we'll be speaking with the author of Living with Myasthenia gravis, Dr. Kemi Olawaye Damson. Stay tuned for this enlightening interview. My name is Osasu Igbenedion, and I am your host. Dr. Kemi Olawaye Damson, thank you so much for joining me in today's program.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. So can you tell me what it felt like to be diagnosed with Myasthenia gravis, if I pronounced that right?
You did. But to make it easier for you, you can just call it MG for short. Well, being diagnosed with MG, that was 3 years ago. It was after I gave birth to my daughter. The experience was unbearable. Imagine when you give birth and a week after you can't move your arms, breathing is difficult, swallowing your food is almost impossible. That was basically what happened in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And we were confused, even though I'm a medical doctor, we didn't know what was happening at that particular time. Okay. We were quite confused. We kept going to the emergency, in and out, in and out. Eventually, 4 weeks later, I got diagnosed. It was a relief because now I knew what was wrong with me.
Going on with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I didn't know that was the beginning of a new kind of life for me.
How so?
When I got diagnosed, I was admitted to the ICU straight away because I couldn't breathe. So I needed breathing tubes. I needed to be connected to a ventilator to assist my breathing. So I was in the ICU for 4 weeks. Then when I finally could breathe without the ventilator, I still had the tube in for another 2 weeks. I finally got discharged from the hospital after 6 weeks in the hospital. Then I got home. I thought everything was going to go back to normal. I was going to have my life back, be a mother, be a wife. But I realized that it was going to be different because now I can't really do chores myself. Mm-hmm. I need help with everything. I get very tired easily as opposed to you and any other person. Mm-hmm. So now I have to pace myself when I do anything.
Okay. And during the introduction of our show, we've given the medical terminologies and the medical definition of what MG is. But as someone who has kind of been through this and experienced it, what can you say are the symptoms? How does it feel? Like, what are the feelings going through, this autoimmune disease?
Okay, like you said, MG is an autoimmune disease. It means that your body is fighting against itself. So with MG specifically, it affects the muscles and the nerves. So normally your brain sends a message through the nerves to the muscle and says move. But with MG, there's something blocking that connection between the muscle and the nerve. So the message is sent, but the muscle can't respond.
Wow.
So that's
you
what
literally wanted to pick up your arm and you can't do it.
You can't move. It's weak.
Wow.
Yes. You want to swallow, you can't swallow.
So it's sort of like paralysis, or how would you?
Something like that. I mean, you would see it as paralysis, but it's more of weakness. You're trying to move. It's not like you can't move at all, but you're just so weak that you can hardly do it. So for me, when I couldn't move my arms, instead of raising my arms up, I couldn't go up like that. I have to go like this to wear my dress.
Wow.
So, but with MG, it starts from the head downwards. The symptoms start from the head downwards. So from your eyes, you have droopy eyes, you can't open it wide. So when I was growing up, I actually had, my left eye was a bit droopy, but I didn't know why. And then you have double vision. So I wore glasses like from age 11 till 3 years ago when I stopped. Because the reason for wearing glasses was the MG. It wasn't an eye problem. Then it comes down. You're swallowing and you're eating and you're talking. So my speech, I lost my speech for about 2 weeks in 2006 because I had weakness of my oral muscles, basically. So I couldn't form words. And then after that, when my speech returned, it was very nasal. I could hardly form the words, and it was uncomfortable and painful. So sometimes I cried. Then swallowing water or food was also affected. So when I eat, it just comes out. Then it goes down, your diaphragm, your lung muscles. Your diaphragm gets weak, so you can't breathe on your own. And then your arms, then your legs. So
I think what's most profound about the autoimmune disease, because from reading your story, it didn't all just come all at once. Like, you weren't born and all of a sudden, you lost, control of your emotion and everything. It's, after you had a child, after you reached, a certain stage in your life. So how can people kind of, realize or get diagnosed beforehand, before they actually start to see these severe symptoms?
Actually, my first symptom was when I was 10 years old. If you read my book, like when you look at one of the chapters there, I went back down memory lane. So my first symptom was when I was 10. I remember being sick. I was helpless. I was carried from hospital to hospital. I was helped to do everything. So we didn't know what it was at that time. Then 11, I got glasses. Then in medical school in 2006, I had all what I just described to you.
And how old were you then?
22.
22.
I was 22. And all that happened, but we still didn't know, because I was in Ghana at that time. We came back to Nigeria, did all the tests possible, of other common conditions. At that time,
we'll show a picture right now on the screen, which shows the drastic weight loss that occurred, during this period in time. Yeah. So what was your emotion? What was going through your head at this time? You were losing weight, you were weak, everything, life changed drastically, I'm sure. At
the first time I lost weight like that, it was 2006 when I was 22. My brother was with me in school at that time. He was scared. He called my dad. Dad, Kemi is losing weight. I don't know what's happening to her. Come and take her, things like that. And I couldn't gain the weight back. So from 2006 till 2011, I was between 44 kg and maybe 50. I was just, it was impossible to gain weight, because apparently I was having a crisis, but because I wasn't diagnosed and I wasn't on any medication. Did
the people around you just think you were maybe on an extreme diet? And,
people, if I tell you what people thought, people thought I had other kind of medical conditions or hepatitis and some.
So they could physically see the impact the autoimmune disease was having on you. So they didn't think it was just one diet that you were on and not telling people about.
People thought I had hepatitis. That's just one of the things I'm going to say. I won't say the other one. But so anybody, like you asked me, how do people get diagnosed earlier on before getting as bad as I did?
Because this is not something that they check for during your regular, doctor's visit.
It is, if you feel tired and fatigued with just minor activity, then you can start thinking about, okay, I've not really done much, but I'm getting so tired. And then maybe you start having droopy eyes or double vision. then talk to your doctor. Tell your doctor, I'm so tired. When you go, you don't say, I'm tired, because we probably won't take you seriously. But if you say, I'm so tired in spite of doing little activity, and then maybe I'm finding it difficult to swallow, things like that, then we start thinking about it, and we can get you tested on time. But from my research, ever since I got diagnosed, I've been interested in helping people who have been diagnosed with
Yes, and you even
MG.
have a wonderful book which I've scanned through, but I've not been able to study intensively. But it's called "Living with Myasthenia Gravis: Finding Hope in Life's Challenging Crisis." That's beautiful. So the number on the screen, you can order this book by calling the number on the screen and also sending an email to the details on the screen as well. So right now we'll take a short break and we'll be right back on the Osasu Show. Do you believe citizens should take the laws into their own hands?
No, it is not taking the laws into their own hands.
Your Excellency, but do you agree that there were accusations that you made during the campaign that were not necessarily founded?
Me?
Yes.
If the party doesn't have a direct influence over the legislative arm of government, how come the party held a primary election for Senate?
The party provided the platform only.
I actually disagree with you, Senator. I think draconian laws would affect more so the masses, the people who do not even have to begin with.
What do they call the incident of October 2006?
No impeachment. They call it rascality.
Rascality.
Welcome back to the Osasu Show. Still with me is Dr. Kemi Olawaye Damson. Thank you so much for sitting tight. So before we went on break, we talked about your book briefly, Living with Myasthenia Gravis, and we talked about your experience as well living with this autoimmune disease. So now I'd like to switch gears a little and talk about the foundation, the structure that we have in place to currently diagnose and treat people with this autoimmune disease. So I know locally in Nigeria, we do not currently have the testing facilities for this autoimmune disease. Am I correct?
Well, I really can't confirm that because I don't live in Nigeria. It's been a while. But back home in Ghana, I know that we send the sample to South Africa. That's the closest place where it can be diagnosed. And it's quite expensive because there are two different types of myasthenia gravis right now. There's the common type, the AChR, acetylcholine receptor type, and then there's the anti-musk type, which is the type I have.
Can you tell us the difference?
Yes, the acetylcholine receptor type, that's more common, and that responds to a particular medication called pyridostigmine. That one, the symptoms are basically the same thing. It's just the difference is the amount of, is the kind of medication they respond to. And I think the severity of the facial weakness. So with the anti-musk type, which I have, it is more pronounced with your mouth and your eyes. But the other one is more like kind of generalized, just relatively, but they are basically the same thing. So with the anti-musk type is rare. So the treatment for that right now is not really clear-cut. So if you use the same pyridostigmine for anti-musk, it's not going to work. So we use more of immunosuppressants like prednisone, azathioprine, some other immunosuppressant drugs like that. So for that, that's the major difference in the two.
Both of them.
Yeah.
So if one of our viewers were, said, okay, I have maybe some symptoms that we've discussed now on the show, and they walk into a local hospital, how can they be guaranteed that they're going to get the adequate testing that they...
Okay, what we are doing now in Ghana, I can't speak for Nigeria. I'm about to come to Nigeria to try and set something up.
Through your foundation called Living Free to Live.
Yeah, so in Ghana, I'm about to launch the foundation officially. But what my colleague doctors have been doing is they refer patients to me. They give them my number, they call me, and then we work on that. Like we just get in touch. I've started a support group in Ghana to give those patients support and hope, and just to encourage one another. But then we're working on getting the reagents for testing in Ghana, and then the medication needed in case of an emergency. We're working on getting it in Ghana too, so that when you...
And I know the medication is quite expensive, right?
Yes, I was on that medication. It's called IVIG, IV immunoglobulin, basically. If you're in an emergency crisis like I was, you need that. It helps your recovery faster. But we don't have it in Ghana. So when I was coming back from Canada to Ghana, I couldn't afford it because one dose of it was about $15,000 US. Yes. So I couldn't afford that. I was on it every month when I was in Canada. But
Because insurance, you had the
yes,
insurance.
because I had the insurance. But now, when I got back in 2014, I couldn't afford it.
So what did you use to substitute?
Yes, I started taking prednisone with azathioprine tablets.
Okay.
And that's what I've been on.
And that one is fairly relative, relatively cheap?
It's relatively cheaper. But of course, prednisone is quite cheap and easy to get. But the azathioprine is not so easy to get because not all pharmacies carry it. It's not a drug that is commonly used. So it's relatively cheaper than IVIG, but still more expensive than regular drugs.
Okay. And so for our viewers who are watching and saying, okay, I've gone to my doctor, he doesn't really know much about MG, you know, how can they maybe reach out to you? I know they can definitely purchase your book, which we've discussed. You can call the number on the screen to purchase this, to learn more about MG. But how can they maybe reach out to you who has a wealth of your email address?
Email address and my phone number. I'm always on WhatsApp, so yeah. So you give
we'll have that on the screen as well.
My phone number and my email address, so you can always reach me. And Ghana and Nigeria is not that far, so if I get a good number of people in Ghana Nigeria who need me, I can easily just come down and would meet, and whatever we need to do, we'll do it.
And lastly, Dr. Kemi, how would you say you've been able to deal with the stigma of this autoimmune disease? Because I know we've talked briefly about, you know, people saying, oh, does she have hepatitis, or does she have this, or does she have that? You know, so how have you been able to deal with the stigma?
I think with MG, there's no stigma. I mean, maybe people feel sorry for you or pity you, but I know other people, I've met other people living with MG back in Ghana, and they're afraid of stigma. But ever since God told me, write this book, share your story, it's going to inspire somebody else, and I obeyed. My story is out there. It's been inspiring people, and I'm grateful to God for that. I don't think about stigma or anything. I'm glad that in spite of the bad thing that happened to me, God has brought something good out of it. You get? So I use my story, my life, to inspire others, to help other people that are living with MG or that are facing other challenges. You know, there's some people that could face something that makes them feel there's no hope in life anymore. But my story is not just about a medical condition. It's about helping people who are facing any other challenge that makes them feel this situation is hopeless.
Yes, and being strong enough and keeping faith that you would survive that situation.
Because for me to be looking this good and this stable, ever since I obeyed God's instruction, I've not had a relapse.
Wow.
That's 2016, so from January till date. And I've done so many things I couldn't do before. Yeah, so for me to be this stable, apart from medication, I have also involved God every step of the way, and that has made life a whole lot easier for me.
That's awesome. So, and we also have to mention the fact that you have a very supportive husband who was with you through the entire time.
Yeah, you going through this kind of thing, you can't do it alone. You need a very supportive family. So my husband is priceless. I'm so grateful to God for him. Without him, I don't think I would have made it this far. That is even when I was in the hospital and everything like that. And then even for him to allow me to share my story, because I can't share my story without him and without the rest of my family. So he was supportive in that. And then let's not even talk about my parents and my brother and sister. And my brother and sister, they're also married. So my family is one big family. They've been very supportive every step of the way. So it makes it easier to go through this. You can't go through it alone because sometimes you're down and fine, they might not really understand what you are feeling, but the fact that you can just call them and just cry when you're feeling weak or down, or they're like, okay, Kemi, you want to share your story, what can we do, how can we help? Okay, this is what I can do for you over here, okay, this is what I can do for you. It just makes life a whole lot easier. So I have been blessed with a very, very supportive family, so I'm grateful to God.
You surely are. So what are your parting words to people who have MG but don't have the kind of support that you have? You know, I know you said there are not many stigmas, but there are people out there who go through the different symptoms and they think, okay, there's something wrong with them. You know, people who do not necessarily understand the autoimmune disease would say to them, okay, maybe that one has, you know, HIV, because that's what everyone points to when you're losing weight and, you know, looking a bit ill. So there's obviously a stigma with this autoimmune disease. So what would you say to people who are going through stigmatization and don't necessarily have that family support, that family unit, you know, that you have been blessed with?
Okay, first and foremost, MG is different from HIV. It's different from hepatitis. So I think when people don't know what you're going through, then they think, oh, you have MG. So first and foremost, feel free to open up and tell them, okay, this is what I'm going through, or this is what I have. You'll be surprised at how people would understand and be compassionate, and they would help you. So if you open up and let them know, okay, I have MG. MG is not contagious. It's not HIV. It's just that you need help, extra help sometimes. So that when you explain that to people around you, it makes them understand, and then they'll be more compassionate. And then don't be afraid to ask for help. You cannot, there's no way you can ever do this alone. Don't give up on God. Hold on to God. Don't give up hope, because once you lose hope, then you've lost the whole battle. So you just have to keep holding on to hope that one day a cure is going to come, and then you'll be alive to experience that cure, you know, and get better. And then just always talk to somebody. You know, it's like being depressed. If you don't talk, you just continue going down. So if you're feeling weak or down, or you need some extra help, don't be afraid to talk to somebody. Just, even if you don't really have a supportive family, you might have friends that really care about you. So if you can open up to a friend you trust, it makes it a bit easier. But if you don't have any of that, you can get my number, which Osasu
on the screen,
and or my email address. I'm always there, available to reply your message or talk to you. So if you don't have any of that, then just come to me.
Awesome. God bless you, Dr. Kemilawaye Damson, author of Living with Myasthenia Gravis. You can pick up this book by calling or emailing the details on the screen. For more information on MG, you can visit www.theosasushow.com, and you can visit my personal website as well, www.osasuigmenejon.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at The Osasu Show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time, take very good care of yourself.
Do you believe citizens should take the laws into their own hands?
No, it is not taking the laws into their own hands.
Your Excellency, but do you agree that there were accusations that you made during the campaign that were not necessarily founded?
Me?
Yes.
If the party doesn't have a direct influence over the legislative arm of government, how come the party held a primary election for Senate?
The party provided the platform only.
I actually disagree with you, Senator. I think draconian laws would affect more so the masses, the people who do not even have to begin with.
What do they call the incident of October 2006?
No impeachment. They call it rascality.
Rascality.